but I just, you know who talks about? Let me think.
As soon as I said that, I thought, Jesus, where am I?
We're going to call the meeting of the Grand Forks City Council Committee of the Whole to order for Tuesday, May 28th. Under item 1, call to order. 1.1, welcome to roll call.
Weigel. Here. Stockler. Weber. Here. Mott. Marshall. Sandy.
Here.
Veen. Here. We have a quorum.
Great. Under item 2, discussion items 2.0, Veterans Park update and plans and specs for Project 8787. Visitor Center overview by General Al Palmer. Yes. Good.
Yes.
Feeling.
Thank you, Council President Sandy. I'm honored to be here with the Veterans Memorial Park crew, and Al Palmer, on behalf of the group, is going to do a overview. Mr. Walker is going to talk to you about some of the project details, and as we move forward. So the last time Mr. Palmer was here, Council President Sandy, you asked, let us know if there's something we can do to help facilitate moving this project across the finish line. We've been meeting with, and I should give a lot of compliments to Mr. Walker and Mr. Gangler have been working with this group along with myself. So they brought back this visitor center that has an attached storage garage. It has some restrooms, and this is one project where we could help participate as part of a greater whole, and so that's why we're in front of you this evening. And Mr. Palmer is going to go through some of the particular details. We've set aside 3 funding sources with the visitor center that we could help with the water, the wastewater, and then finally there's a yard waste site if you live in and around there that we could help beautify that. So that's the third $50,000. So when we talk 50-50-50, those are things that we can do to help move this project line that are aligned with some of the infrastructure that we have in and around that area. So that's why we came up to what we had. Those are all up to numbers. We're not quite sure how it's going to get bid out at the end because there's some nuance with this, with contractors donating some things. So we'll have to see how it all shakes out. So with that, if I could just say a few nice words about Mr. Palmer. They are going to name this the General Al Palmer Visitor Center for all his time and dedication. So we were told that, so that's why we have that on the list. And number 2, Al, we were talking beforehand with Council President Sandy, is that I was in Mandan, but south of Mandan is the North Dakota Military Cemetery. And Mr. Palmer, or General Palmer, gave the keynote address at that yesterday. And only Senator Hoeven and Governor gave some opening remarks, but Mr. Palmer was the keynote address. So I think that says a lot about how proud we should be to have Mr. Palmer in our community, how proud we should be to have him helping to lead this project. And I think what Mr. Palmer is going to say is that we're pretty darn close to the finish line at this point in time, so it's pretty remarkable. So with that, I'd ask Mr. Palmer to give us a few words of wisdom, and then Mr. Walker will tell you some of the project details.
Hey,
General.
hey, guys, it's good to see you and good to be back here again. I will try to make this as short and sweet as we possibly can. But the update for the Veterans Memorial Park, we've been working on this for an awful long time. Our goal is to have it done in 2019, and the wall is being etched as we speak, and the obelisks are being etched, and God, we're blessed to be a part of this community. You guys have done an awful lot of help for us. I got this from Kay Derry, and I thought it was kind of neat. You're going to see the Veterans Memorial Park complete, but everything below there you don't see, and what you don't see is what these guys have done. Tom is the vice, Mike Hagan has done yeoman's work, and the head of our fundraising, Gary Shields. We've raised an awful lot of money, and in January we decided to go from the fundraising into the construction phase. So we're blessed. We've sold everything. If you take a look at things that we've sold, I'll go through them a little bit later, but I think we have the donor wall for sale. Anything else?
And the visitor center, the kiosk portion.
Yeah, the kiosk. So we've done very, very well in raising funds, and that's credit to Gary. I'm going to miss somebody, I know that, but the Herald has been very helpful in bringing attention and creating awareness to the Veterans Memorial Park, from selling stones to selling everything else that we have. sometimes I feel like a lawyer that's chasing an ambulance. I feel bad, that we're out selling, but we've done very, very well. The site plan, it's going to be done. We're going to approve it through the board tomorrow. And once that's approved, then we'll start constructing things. We've been waiting on this site plan, and like I say, working with EAPC, EA2S, thank you, and JLG, they've done yeoman's work in making this happen. So once we approve the site plan tomorrow at our 5:30 meeting, we'll be moving forward with the construction phase. Accomplished groundbreaking in 15. We got the anchor. We got the parking lot built. We're 501(c) approved, so people can get tax write-offs. We've sold over 500 stones. We'll probably sell 1,000. We've got great community support. From some big donors. Mike worked with Engelstad family, got a $250,000 donation. Rydell's have given us just short of $100,000. You guys are if you approve it, will be one of the big donors in building the visitor center. And guys, I didn't get into this business to have a building named after me. These guys right here, blindsided me with naming the building after me, and I'm humbled and honored, but I didn't get into this to do that. You guys approved the street naming, Veterans Memorial Parkway. Our goals for 2019, parking lot expansion, probably not going to happen in 2019. Visitor center room is going to be built. Shelters and benches all sold and installed. The wall in the Bliss will be etched and installed. Electrical lighting, landscape, sidewalk installed. Memorial stones over 500. Park will be completed in October of this year. Our dedication, we were going to do it in 29 September. It didn't work out, so we're looking for Veterans Day of 2019. Air Force benches are sold, five service benches, 13 park benches. Did your 14 come through?
No, 13 is.
13 is good to go, okay. We've sold 5 shelters. The monument foundation for the wall and for the obelisk has been constructed. Anchor signage is done. Sidewalks will be built. We've been blessed $700,000 so far. We've spent $354,000, and we have 70.
It's about 77 and in kind, so it's about 454 roughly.
Yeah, that we've spent so far. So we're doing good. And with your help, we're going to make this happen for our veterans. So that's really quick. I open up for any questions that you may have.
Any questions? General, you have an opportunity to tell people what's still for sale and how much it costs.
Yeah, well, it's, what do we have left? The kiosk,
Recognition wall.
donor recognition
How
wall.
much is it?
For you, for you, Dana, $50,000, and I'll take a check, Yeah. I'd love to have that, sold, and the kiosk.
And the kiosk.
And the kiosk, what do you want for the kiosk?
That's approximately $20,000.
Yeah.
And then still some memorial stones?
Oh, yeah,
And
lots of
they're-
stones.
How much are they?
200.
A couple $100, so there's
Yep.
something for everybody's price point.
Exactly. And, when the
I'll take
key,
a stone.
excellent. Any other questions?
Mr. Walker, you want to kind of give us the project details?
Yeah.
Not too many, but enough.
So, some time ago, Mr. Phelan came to me and asked me to get involved in this project, so we understood that there was a lot of things that were happening in the park, but one of the things left to be done was to design and construct the visitor center. And so I was asked to kind of help out on that. So the visitor center, as it's currently designed, would include, a kiosk, and it would also include a restroom facility. And the Park District also wanted to include an extra extension on it so that they can house equipment for maintaining the park, lawn mowing equipment, that type of thing. So that's what's being proposed. So the facility, if you remember the image that was up there before, is located relatively close to city lift station and the yard waste drop-off site. So what we're doing is we're going to be doing some, extending some city services. We'll extend the sewer, we'll extend the water, and we'll also put up screening around the lift station and the yard waste site. So that's included in the project. So I have enlisted the help of WFW and JLG, who is actually doing the design for this project for the visitor center. A very preliminary estimate of what we think the engineer's estimate would be on this is about $265,000. We're hoping it's going to be a lot less than that. We've talked with the Veterans Group about soliciting donations from the contractors in the form of really low bids. So we're hoping to come in and say our engineer's estimate was way too high, but we'll see. Todd mentioned the funding for this. It's the visitor center is being funded with funding from the Park District as well as the Veterans Group and a proposed city funding share. City funding share has been proposed at $150,000 with funding coming from the sanitation department, the wastewater department, and the water department. The Park District has also offered to own and maintain the building once it's complete. And as we proceed on schedule, we are hoping to open bids on this on July 8th and then bring them directly to the Committee of the Whole that night. The project, as indicated, we're trying to get this done by mid-October so that everything is complete for Veterans Day. And with that, we would recommend approving the project plans and specifications and the associated funding plan and necessary budget amendments of $50,000 each from the sanitation, water, and water enterprise funds.
Mr. Walker, I have one quick question. So the Park District is going to be maintaining the grounds and the facilities moving forward?
That is correct.
I don't know how much money, if they have cash invested, but they will have ongoing expenses related to upkeep on this facilities.
They do, and my understanding is that their contribution financially to this project, once completed, is around $500,000.
Well, they deserve a lot of credit as well. Any other comments or questions? I'll second. Second by me. Any other thoughts or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mr.
If I could say one more thank you on this project. Thanks to Mark, I threw him in this project, and we talked about talent and engineering, and people just know how to do it, so I knew Mark could help work with kind of an eclectic project that we have, so thanks to Mark for just jumping in and saying, how can I help? And then the other guy is Brad Gangler, back there, our city planner and veteran, who's been with this group from the very beginning, and so Brad has been our lead staff person, so I want to give a lot of credit to Brad for facilitating getting us to this point too. So thank you.
So thank you, yeah, thank you both for what you've done for this project. And so motion passes unanimously. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Item 2.2, appointments and reappointments to various committees. Sorry, 2.1, thank you. Can you read it, 2.1?
2.1, request to waive city code section 9-0307 for the special event Extreme North Dakota Water Sports Endurance Test event June 15th, 2019.
Hi, good evening. Oh, General, always a pleasure.
Thanks. Good to see you guys.
Hi, Pete Hagar, Here on behalf of Cheryl Simeone, get the B team today, sorry about that, Vice President and council members, here to present the request from Extreme North Dakota, or END, wet race, or the water sports endurance test. This has become an annual occurrence. The city council is being asked to waive the ordinance that prohibits swimming in the river for this race. It's approximately a 36-mile race in the river, the longest, I believe, in North America, if I remember correctly. The organizers have gone through the permitting process, as you can see before you. They've worked with the appropriate municipal entities and public safety entities, and have established a protocol now that has become fairly familiar throughout the year. So what we're requesting at this point is just simply to waive the ordinance for the for this test, so, or for this event, so the swimmers can actually legally swim in the river.
Any questions?
I believe this is the 5th time that we've done this, and we have never had any problems except a wonderful opportunity to bring a wonderful opportunity to bring people from all over the country. Have we had, and I believe we've had folks from out of the country come
Yes.
here to swim the run. I'll move approval.
Moved by Weber, second by Mock. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 2.2, appointments and reappointments to various committees. A, Library Board, Peter Johnson. B, Laris Commission, Ken Veen. C, Laris Commission, Jay Clevin. D, Laris Commission, Matt Walawak. E, Growth Fund Committee, Chris Wolf. And F, Civil Service Commission, Keith Reitmeyer. Does anyone have any comments or questions about any of the appointments? Mr. Weigel?
I'll just object to Ken Veen.
Yours-
I'll move approval.
Right. We all object to Ken Veen. Moved by Weigel, second by Mock. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 2.3, excuse me, federal funding for Project 8068 Shared Use Path, Columbia Road from 40th to 47th Avenue South. Mr. Grasser, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Council President Sandy, members of the committee. 2.3 and 2.4 both are related to federal funding. If you remember last fall, we made a couple of applications for, they call it TA funding, is a new acronym now with the DOT. Essentially, we use those for bike paths. And we were basically successful in getting both of the projects that we submitted for. So item 2.3 is the first of the notifications that we had for successful application. This is a shared use path on Columbia Road from 40th to 47th. If you remember, I don't know, it's been 5-6 years ago when we extended Columbia Road, we didn't put in the bike paths and the sidewalks, and I know there was some discussion about that, building a classified street like that without all the pedestrian facilities. But at that time, it would the bike path and sidewalks would not have gone anywhere. So the city council said we'll delay those till we have basically a route for people to go to. In the intervening years, we've made a couple of phases on 47th Avenue South, so that bike path goes along 47th all the way to Columbia Road. Obviously, the intersection of Columbia Road at 47th is now signalized and prepared for pedestrian traffic. So this becomes the last link then along Columbia Road. This will get us from 40th to 47th. Of course, the bike path is already installed south of 40th Avenue South. The general project is estimated at about $459,000. We were approved for the maximum amount of federal dollars that they will put towards the project, which is $290,000. So city project, we're assuming at this point that we'll do it in-house, and so we're estimating the city share to be $176,000 approximately. So we're asking authorization to accept the federal funding and proceed with project development.
Any questions? Moved by Veen, second by Mock. Mr. Grasser, how long, the bike path's 10, or the shared use path 10 feet wide, how long are the two of them put together approximately?
The two of these together?
Yeah,
About 3/4 of a mile.
3/4 of a mile
Yes.
for
Columbia Road is about a half mile.
$880,000. That's amazing.
Concrete's expensive.
It's, yes, that's amazing. And that's assuming that it doesn't cost us the additional $175,000 for engineering services. This could be $1 million for 3/4 of a mile. That's more than it costs to put in a road. Not quite, but it just seems amazing. Right. But hopefully people will get a lot of utility out of it. Any other egregious comments like mine? Mr. Weber?
Does this tend to have less maintenance than a roadway for vehicles?
On a square foot basis, yes, it would tend to have less maintenance. I think I guess I can't speak entirely for the public works, but it would have, the street sweepers and things like that generally don't go down there. It's a narrower width, obviously, for snow plowing, things like that. So I don't know the numbers. I can't quote anything.
Thanks.
Mr. Weigel?
I guess I would look at setting up a ward meeting to talk a little bit about this. I know this sidewalk will run right by quite a few houses on University Avenue.
I'm sorry, we're
Well, this one's
we're
Columbia
not
Road,
quite
right?
to that
Sorry, I'm
one
looking
yet.
at the next one.
Yep. No, everybody in my ward is eagerly anticipating this shared use path. I know that because I've heard from lots of the neighbors in the Kings Walk area and to the west by Discovery School, so they're very excited about this path. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 2.4, federal funding, Project 8069, shared use path on University Avenue from North 48th Street to Park Manor driveway.
Thank you.
Mr. Glasser, yes.
Again, I think this is moving to the next one. This one is on University Avenue from 48th Street to the driveway to Park Manor. This is, if you look at the bike path map that's in the staff report, you'll see there's referred to as the missing link on University Avenue. We have bike paths to the west, bike paths to the east, and this one always shows up at the bike path as a missing piece. Now, there are existing sidewalks there. They've been there for quite a number of years, but this would upgrade the sidewalks to a bike path standard and replace driveways essentially as part of that project. That would all have to be part of it. So again, we're estimating the cost of that is about $421,000. We've been approved for the maximum $290,000 federal share, which leaves about $138,000. And again, we're anticipating, the last project was, we're anticipating 2020. This one, we're looking at probably 2021. So we think we can manage the design, the environmentals, the design, and the construction in-house.
Any comments? Mr. Weigel?
I'll do some checking with those neighbors and see what they think.
But you wanna move it forward tonight?
Correct.
Yep, so moved by Weigel, second by Veen. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 2.5 has been pulled from the agenda. Item 2.6, plans and specs for Project 8055 paving and streetlights for 43rd Avenue South from Columbia Road to 30th Street. Mr. Grassi.
Thank you. Again, and I apologize if I jump backwards a little bit. As a federally funded project, there's going to be ample opportunity for some public input. So please go ahead and talk to the neighbors, but there's always a good public input phase on these projects. So again, apologize for jumping back. This item 2.6 are the plans and specs for the paving and street lighting for 43rd Avenue South. This basically would be the westerly tie-in from Columbia Road to the west. The developer has asked that we design it, so we've done it under a two-way agreement. And what that means is the developer will select a contractor, they'll pay the contracting bill. The engineering department does the design, we'll do the inspection and staking. So with that, so this will be the last time that you'll see this, as opposed to most projects which would come back for bid award, because the developer is doing this out of his own finances. This will be the last time you'll see this item.
Great. Any comments or thoughts? Moved by Mock, second by Veen. Any other thoughts? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 2.7, plans and specs for Project 8066, District 568 sanitary sewer for South 19th Street from 40th to 44th Avenue South. Mr. Grasser,
Thank you again.
Grasser show tonight.
Yeah, I gave everybody else got the night off. So, not everybody, yeah. This is the second step. We created the assessment district last time. Just a quick reminder, this is approving the plans and specs for the special assessment project. We're special assessing the piece of 19th Street from 40th Avenue down to basically 44th Avenue South. The developer, under a three-way agreement, will be doing the remainder of the work inside the right-of-way on 44th Avenue South and on 17th Street. Three-way agreement means that the developer will fund it. They're having the design and in this case, inspection done under a third-party engineer, and the city staff will basically be reviewing the plans and general oversight.
Great. Any comments or questions? Mr. Dean?
One quick question. The section of 44th then that would go east, I'm sorry, that'll just come in at a different time, I would assume.
When those plans are ready for approval, those will come in as a separate item. We will bring in the plans for 44th Avenue and 17th both. Again, those are still under design from the design engineer. And right now, we're talking just the underground components.
Great. Any other questions?
Move approval.
Moved by Veen, second by Weber. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And 2.8, plans and specs for project number 8070 ARV-T replacement between Columbia Road and LS 32. Mr. Walker.
Good afternoon, Council President Sandy, members of council. So we've had a similar project, a couple of similar projects like this in previous years. We're replacing Ts that were put on this force main that were intended to mount an air release valve on top of it, and then that air release valve would be installed in a manhole, and its purpose was to allow gases that would collect inside of the force main to be expelled. This is on one of the city's main force main that transmits wastewater from within the city out to the wastewater treatment plant. The force main was installed in about 1988 and is a 36-inch diameter force main. These air release valves were put in about every half mile, and at the time, the material that was available was steel, and these Ts were coated in a very durable epoxy coating, but that epoxy coating does fail over a period of time. And so what has happened is that this coating has failed, causing the steel to rust and eventually fail. We've had a couple failures of these and had to replace them under emergency condition. This particular section of force main is located along 17th Avenue and runs from Columbia out to Lift Station 32, which is located on 48th Street. And the project would replace about 4 of these air release valve Ts, and there is repair work on 2 others that are on that section of force main that were previously replaced under emergency conditions. The engineer's estimate for this project is $493,000, and funding would come from the wastewater fund, $5,200. The last thing I'll point out is that the replacement for these failed Ts, or these corroding Ts, is not going to be steel as was the original construction, but rather it would be a section of 36-inch PVC pipe onto which stainless steel tapping T would be installed. Now, those parts are not corrodable, so we anticipate that they would last a much longer period of time. And those parts were not available in 1988 when the force main was originally constructed. So with that, we would recommend approval of the plans and specifications for the project.
Any questions about the T replacements? Mr. Veen?
Mr. Walker, that type of pipe went from Columbia Road west to 47th, and then it continues west and then ultimately north. Are we going to have future segments of this coming up that we'll be doing the same thing with?
We've had 2 projects previous years. We did a project last year and a project the year before. We bid out those projects, and this would be the last of those projects on the 36 36-inch force main. There are still some concerns with air release valves on the pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe force main that we have, so there'll probably be some additional projects coming up, but not necessarily on the 36-inch force main.
Okay, thanks. Move approval.
Moved by Veen, second by Mock. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 2.9, Engineers Report for Project 7540, District 567, Oscarville Storm Sewer, Storm Pond, Pump Station, and Discharge Ditch. Mr. Walker.
So if you recall, I was before you the last Committee of the Whole meeting and talking about this project. It is going to be a very expensive project. Its purpose is to install a storm sewer collection system in an existing development such that the ultimate goal is to put paving in that neighborhood. And we refer to it as being the Oscarville area, but actually it includes Oscarville subdivision, Sensky subdivision, Lem Acre subdivision. It's generally located between the interstate and 42nd Street in the area of 20th Avenue North to 27th Avenue North. So this area was originally began to be platted and sold off as lots in the early 60s. At the time, it was a way of it served low-cost residential and commercial lots. At the time, there were just rural water out there. There was no paved roads. The roads were dirt and gravel, rural roads. Drainage was by ditches, and there were no sanitary sewer service out there. Now we see that those roads are still continued to be used. The drainage in the area is rather poor, and so we've also observed that a lot of the traffic that's out there is heavy truck traffic. There's a number of trucking outfits that are out there. So when you have rainy weather or in the spring of the year, the roads become impassable, and we've seen semis stuck in the middle of the road and problems with getting access to some of the businesses that are out there. The residents, I should say the business owners in that area, have been asking for paved streets for a number of years, but we've known that it's going to be a very challenging project just simply because of the cost associated with it. So before we can put paving in, we need to get the utilities in. The good news is that the water has been installed over the years, and that has been completed probably back in 2008. And a couple years ago, we finished the sewer, the sanitary sewer, and got that installed. So what remains is the storm sewer and the paving. And fortunately, those are two of the most expensive projects that we have to put out there. Following our normal city cost participation on storm sewer, we calculated that just putting in the storm sewer would run about $3.5 million to be assessed to those property owners. We suggested that the city might want to consider a larger share for that project, just simply because it was an existing neighborhood, and then the stormwater regulations came in, so that we're required to put a pond in. And so the configuration of the pond and where it needs to be discharged to is such that not only are we going to need a pond and the gravity sewer itself, but we're going to also need a lift station. And to get it to where it ultimately needs to drain, we got about a mile of ditch that needs to be improved. On top of that, we have to acquire land to put the pond and the lift station on, because the area is already developed. Normally in a new area, you have the developer donating the land for that. So it ends up being pretty expensive. We also looked at a preliminary cost estimate for the paving, and we anticipate that would be about $3.5 million as well. So that's a big chunk of money to be assessing that area. And I mentioned that the sanitary sewer was done a couple years ago. The assessments just for that was about $1.5 million. So, as we approve the engineer's report for this project, our next step is to take it to the Special Assessment Commission to determine benefits. We would then prepare letters that would go out to each property owner indicating to them what their assessment is proposed to be for this project, and hold a special meeting to get input from the property owners and answer any questions that they might have. We suggested a higher participation rate. The participation rate that the city now has, according to policy, is 15% of the cost of the pond. That amounts to about $200,000 for this project. I guess as we've looked at this, and we want to suggest something that would make this project a go, and in the eyes of the property owners be supportive of it. And we think that a possible solution to that might be as if the city would participate 50% instead of 15% on the cost of the pond. That would increase the city's share from $200,000 to about $740,000. The $200,000 original city share would come from the stormwater fund, and we're recommending that the additional share would come from economic development funds. That would reduce the special assessments from $3.5 million down to about $2.8 million. So it would be our intent, if this is approved, we would indicate that to the residents when we send out the letter inviting them to the special assessment meeting, or the public input meeting, I should say, and just recognizing that the city is offering this additional funding this time around and may not be available in the future, so it's advisable to proceed with the project. I will also point out that we've done, a couple other projects in this area. We built Lift Station 46 up in this area. It's the lift station that serves the Oscarville area as well as the Green Pulp area and the biomass area. This was kind of identified as a SIG area, not necessarily the Oscarville, but the Corinta area, and it's adjacent to it, so that would kind of fall in line with the proposed funding from additional funding from economic development. So with that, our suggestion would be to approve the engineer's report and direct engineering department to prepare plans and specifications and advertise for construction bids, and provide additional city funding of 50% of the pond costs, with the original 15% to be from the stormwater and the remainder to be from economic development funds. I made your head hurt last time. I hope I didn't do it again.
I have one quick question before I open it up for other comments. Was that 50% recommendation part of the staff recommendation? I don't recall reading that.
You didn't, because when we prepared the staff report, we weren't sure what we were going to recommend. So the recommendation indicates that amount and funding source to be provided at the committee of the whole meeting. So I'm providing that verbally. So as you make your recommendation, you'd probably want to include that language.
Got it. Mr. Veen?
Am I accurate in that storm sewer is not protestable?
That is correct.
But we still may not do it anyway. But the recommendation, the condition of those streets up there without storm sewer gets to be pretty difficult. But it's been that way for a lot of years too, right?
It has been. We have, those rural roads have existed that way for a long time, and we have seen more and more development occur up there. There's been more and more traffic. There's been more and more large truck traffic in the area as well. So the situation isn't getting better, it is getting worse.
Does our street department then have to come up there and try to regrade after all the
They do. Our street department gets called frequently, and complaints that the roads need better maintenance, but there's only so much that the street department can do with a dirt and gravel road. And a lot of times, they just simply have to wait till it dries up. We've seen where people have called the Public Works Department and indicated that their truck was stuck. And it's like, well, you're going to have to go call a wrecking company or a tow truck to get someone to pull it out.
And I think that's what I was trying to get to. It really does get to be a hazardous situation after a while if you don't have access. The street's another issue, but the storm sewer seems to be essential if you're ever going to dry the streets out, the right-of-ways out to be able to drive on them, I would assume.
Absolutely. Part of the reason why they are so bad is you have such poor drainage. So you have a road that is just soggy and it's wet and it's soft, and the more truck traffic you go over it, the more it gets pumped up and rutted up, and once it gets rutted up, it just holds even more water.
Do you know what the assessed cost would be for them, even with the amount the city is putting forth compared to a typical lot?
A typical lot? I guess I don't know that. I know that we have looked at, if you had to special assess the $3.5 million just for the storm sewer, that cost ends up being about $56,000 an acre. And some of those lots are 1 acre, some of them are a little bit smaller, and then there's some that are significantly larger.
Yeah. That's expensive.
It is.
Any other, yes, Ms. Mock?
We see a lot of special assessments, and we sort of have our set process, but I know every once in a while something comes forward that, you know, the mayor's office or engineering propose something of this nature. I know that I think it was, well, Todd, you'll have to correct me, but I think it might have been Cherry, where engineering was seeing a higher cost because we were having to outsource it to a consultant because of our lack of staffing. And so the city decided to put forth a little extra towards the cost of that project, just so that citizens in that area weren't punished for kind of an ongoing hiring issue that we've been having. How often do these special type of situations come up? Is this something we've done maybe more than we're realizing?
Okay.
Council President Sandy and Councilmember Mock, I think the one example you're probably thinking about is that we stepped in, recall the Augusta Drive townhomes that are on a corner of Columbia Road and 62nd Avenue South. They had a private station, it wasn't working, they weren't maintaining it. So we came in, this was under Councilmember Bierke's reign as Service Safety Chair, and we agreed to share in a 50-50 cost share, and we would then take over the pump station. So we've thought that as a kind of an example of a special case. It was already an infill area. They asked for assistance. They were willing to cost share, and then eventually we took it over because it was built to a city satisfaction as we move forward. And I think, as Mr. Walker said, the reason why we keep talking about Oscarville is because it's the exception to the rule. And would we do Oscarville all over again? No, but I suspect it was built, as Mark said, in the 60s. We eventually annexed it, and now it's getting more and more use. And so we're trying to other than getting calls all the time, trying to get it to a certain level. And I think the other important part is not to put so much city investment that we are rewarding businesses that located there at the expense of others that may have located in a different park where they had all the infrastructure up front. And so we're trying to balance those two. Let's move it forward, but at the same time, take some recognition that they located there because it was a lower cost industrial park, if you will, business park. But I think with this, we can move forward. They would pay their fair share, and because the next fair share will be the street that will come afterward, and that's their ultimate goal. The reason why we even started talking about this several years ago is because they wanted a street so they could get trucks in and out of there. So I think it's clear to say this is an exception to the rule. We're just trying to find a reasonable way forward without, as Mr. Sandy says from time to time, without picking favorites. I don't think we're doing that. We're being strategic in how we're coming up with the formula.
Mr. Walker, this is all going to be special assessed, correct?
Correct.
And the Special Assessment Commission is set to meet on this when?
It would probably be week after next.
Week after next, okay. Yes, Ms. Ma?
So you said it was not protestable because it's a water project. If we move forward with it and there is a large outcry over the cost, is that something that we can still know about? Are we obligated to move forward at that time?
So at that time, the council could make a decision whether to proceed with the project or cancel the project. And that has happened before. We've had, such projects where, it wasn't protestable by law, but it still can be protestable as a citizen. A citizen could come in, a group of them could come in and say, we really don't want it because we can't afford it.
Any other thoughts? Mr. Veen moves approval. Mr. Weber seconds, reluctantly seconds. Any other comments? Yes, Ms. Mock?
So it's always hard to know going forward what future costs may be, but if you think, had we done this 5 years ago, would you have an estimate of, would it have been significantly less or more in terms of cost?
Well, you'd have the value of inflation, obviously. 5 years ago is probably about the time where the stormwater regulations would have come in. You probably wouldn't have had to build such a robust station, pond, but you still would have had to build some sort of a place to hold the water until you pumped it out. You'd still end up having to build a ditch. You'd still end up having to build a pump station.
I guess what I'm getting at is if we don't do it now, is it just going to get more expensive in the future if we wouldn't?
Yes,
Consider
definitely
it
be
now.
more expensive. And it still is a strain on Public Works as they maintain these roads. They put a lot of effort into these roads as compared to other roads in the city that are built to city standards.
Mr. Weber?
I probably should have asked this before I reluctantly seconded, but to go from 15 to 50, this was a decision that the staff made, and it's preemptive. We've not had any request for this yet, but, right.
That is correct. We've not had any requests from this. We can certainly anticipate that there's going to be a request that there'd be a higher than normal funding share. You could probably expect that there's going to be people who would ask for even more.
Even more.
But we as staff sat down and we thought about it, what's reasonable and what is a good starting point for a discussion, and we felt that a 50% cost share on the pond would be that.
It's a difficult situation. You explained it really well. Thanks for that. Because it drains so poorly, is there anything special being done in terms of constructing the roads?
Well, once we get the storm sewer in and able to capture all
The
of
hope is
that
that
water, it would dry out the subbase. And then our next attempt would be to identify where neighborhood or property owners are in support of rebuilding their section of roads. There's a number of roads up there. We don't have to rebuild all of them, and the intent would be is to discuss with the various property owners as to which ones are in support of the paving. Remember that paving is protestable, so you could go through all of the effort of designing and bidding a paving project only to have it protested out. So we're going to try to flesh some of that out in advance.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Walker. I'm ready to vote.
Mr. Walker, just for clarification for the record, the Special Assessment Commission meeting is actually this Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
just so that people that are listening know, that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Seeing nothing else on the agenda for this evening, is there a motion to adjourn by Weigel, second by Mock? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion adjourned. Good meeting.
Thank you for being with us tonight. This meeting has been brought to you in part by
Let Grand Forks International Airport help you start your next vacation off on the right foot. Grand Forks International Airport offers flights to the sunny destinations of Orlando, Las Vegas, and Phoenix on Allegiant, and connections anywhere in the world through Minneapolis-St. Paul on Delta. Forget the hassle of long drives, parking nightmares, and stressful check-ins. The convenience of flying locally means less headaches and more time for you. Grand Forks International Airport. Your airport. Simply grand.
How many things in your house connect to the internet? Let's see. Computers, smartphones, gaming console, maybe your appliances and lights. They say that by the year 2020, the average home will have 5 devices for every one person. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to be average. We're going to need much better internet.
Midco Extreme Gig is here. Life-changing.
Know what's in this box? Well, in case your crystal ball is broken, here's a hint. Safe, reliable energy, for starters, but there's also a commitment to this community. See, at Xcel Energy, this is our hometown. So we're not just about making a living here, we're about living here. Oh, I wish I had wings.
In our community, we're always delivering. Xcel Energy, responsible by nature.
As a farm kid from North Dakota, I was raised to face challenges head-on. But that was put to the test when I was diagnosed with cancer as a teenager. Now, I'm determined to help kids overcome illnesses like I did. So I started my journey at the University of North Dakota. With hard work and determination, I'll help others like my doctors helped me. I'm making my impact. How will you make yours?